Before we start, please make sure to like this video and hit this subscribe button so you never miss a story like this. And also comments where you are watching from, how many sons and daughters you have. Thanks. My name is Jacob Harris. I'm from Savannah, Georgia. And let me tell you something right now. You never know what kind of evil is living right under your roof until it looks you in the eyes and dares you to stop it. That day, I was 2 seconds away from throwing hands in my own house. I came home from work early, sweating through my shirt from the southern heat, tie hanging loose around my neck. My feet barely crossed the living room when I heard it screaming. Not just yelling. Gut deep, rage-filled screaming. I said, "Get away from me." That was her voice. Ellie. My 9-year-old stepdaughter. And the second I heard that, I ran. I bolted down the hallway, swung open the bedroom door so hard it slammed into the wall. That sound, crack, stopped everything. She was in the corner, face wet, knees tucked into her chest like she was hiding from a monster. And across the room stood my wife's brother, Brandon. Hands in the air. Looking calm. Too calm. I don't even remember moving. One moment I saw him. The next, I was across the room with my fist locked in his collar. "What the hell did you do to her?" His hands flew up like a damn actor. "Whoa, Jake, calm down, man. She's just being dramatic." Ellie's little voice cut through us like glass. "Don't let him touch me again." That broke me. I pushed Brandon back so hard he hit the dresser. "You've got 5 seconds to explain before I forget I'm a good man." Still no fear in his face. "She spilled juice on my laptop, man. That's all." I raised my voice, and now she's crying like I hit her. "You know how kids are." No. No, I didn't. Because my stepdaughter? She never cried like this before. Not around me. But for the past few weeks, every time we were alone, she'd turn pale. She'd stare at the door. She'd flinch if I reached for the remote. And she'd cry. Silently. Like she was trying not to be heard. And suddenly, everything made sense. I turned to her, eyes locked with hers, voice steady. "Ellie. Was it just the juice?" She shook her head slowly. Barely a whisper came out. "He locks the door when you're gone." I turned back to Brandon. Fist clenched. My vision went red. He smiled. Smiled. Like he'd won something. Like I wasn't going to do a damn thing. "You gonna believe a little brat over your own blood?" That was it. I lunged. Grabbed his shirt. Slammed him into the hallway wall hard enough to rattle the picture frames. "You're not my blood. You're a disease." He tried to push me off, but I pressed my forearm against his throat. "You think just because her father's gone, no one's going to protect her?" I growled in his ear. "You picked the wrong house." That's when my wife walked in. Saw us. Gasped. Screamed his name, Brandon. Not mine. She ran to him, pushing herself between us. Her voice sharp and panicked. "What are you doing? Let him go." I turned to her, disbelief written all over my face. "You're really defending him right now? He's my brother." She shouted. "You're overreacting. He said it was just juice." That's when Ellie whispered again. "He said he'd hurt mommy if I told." My heart stopped. And my wife? She froze too. Eyes wide. Lips parting. The truth hit her like a freight train. She turned to Brandon. "Is that true?" And for the first time, he didn't say a word. He just looked down. Smirk gone. Arms limp. That silence? It said everything. Sometimes the monster isn't a stranger. It's someone you welcomed into your home. And protecting your family means being brave enough to see the truth even when it's someone you If you're a stepparent, a sibling, a guardian, listen to the silence. Don't brush off the signs. Kids don't always know how to say it out loud, but their eyes will beg you to notice. Share this story with someone who might need the courage to speak up, or the strength to act. Because one brave adult can change a child's whole future. My wife just stood there. No words. No more excuses. The man she called her brother, the man she'd trusted enough to babysit Ellie, to sit at our dinner table, was now exposed. Not by a police report. Not by some dramatic twist. But by the trembling voice of a 9-year-old girl who had suffered in silence. I turned to Ellie. Kneeling down, I wiped her tears with the sleeve of my shirt. You're safe now. I promise. No one will ever hurt you again. She nodded, just once, but her little hands still trembled. Brandon tried to step forward, but I jumped between them like a shield. No. You don't move. You don't breathe in her direction. He sneered, brushing dust off his shirt. What, you gonna call the cops? I didn't touch her. I smiled coldly. You just did. Every word you said in this house from the moment I walked in was recorded. His face cracked for the first time. What? I reached into my pocket and held up my phone. Motion detection camera installed last week after I noticed Ellie's behavior. Audio and video. She cried every time I left. So I made sure I didn't really leave. He lunged for it. I moved quicker. You don't think I'd protect my family? I whispered. Wrong man. My wife's knees buckled. She collapsed onto the couch like the air had been sucked from her lungs. I didn't know, she said, voice cracking. Jake, I didn't know. You didn't want to know. She looked up at me, eyes rimmed red. He's my brother. I've known him my whole life. And Ellie's only known him for 9 years, I snapped. But guess which one of you she was scared of? She tried to speak, but I was already pulling my phone out and dialing. Who are you calling? Brandon asked. The police. He laughed. You don't have proof of anything. I turned the phone screen to him. Actually, I do. The footage started playing. Just from the day before. Brandon, inside Ellie's room, door shut. His voice, low and threatening. You want your mom safe, right? Then stop crying like a baby every time I raise my voice. I'll take that stupid teddy bear and rip its head off if you say another word. You think your new daddy will believe you? He's just playing house. Brandon's face drained of all color. The room went dead silent except for Ellie, quietly sobbing in the corner. When the cops showed up, he didn't say a word. Didn't resist. Didn't even try to act innocent. Because deep down, even monsters know when the curtain's been pulled back. The house stayed silent after that. My wife curled up on the couch, knees to her chest, staring at nothing. She looked like a woman who had just realized she'd been sleeping next to a grenade for years and finally heard the pin drop. I took Ellie into her room. Sat down on the floor with her. Held her hand. I'm sorry, I said. You didn't do anything wrong, she whispered. I didn't do enough. She turned to me. You believed me when no one else would. And that right there broke me. I pulled her into my chest and held her like I should have held her a long time ago. Not just as a stepfather, but as the man who promised to protect her. And almost failed. The next day, the fallout began. Family called. Friends took sides. My wife's mother said I overreacted. Her cousin said I should have talked it out like men. But the truth is, you don't talk with a predator. You stop them. My wife didn't defend Brandon anymore. But that didn't mean she was ready to face the damage. We sat across from each other at the dinner table, not eating. Just two people who thought they knew what family meant, and were proven wrong. I don't know how to fix this, she whispered. You start by choosing her, I said. Over my brother? No, I said, steady and firm. Over your comfort. Over your pride. Over everything you thought was true. She cried that night. Not for Brandon. But for Ellie. And maybe, for the mother she realized she hadn't been. I took a week off work. Stayed home with Ellie. We drew pictures. Played board games. Built Lego cities. She smiled a little more each day. But every now and then, she still checked the locks. That's the thing about trauma, it doesn't just go away. It lingers. It waits. Until you replace it with something louder: love, safety, protection. Moral reminder. You may not be able to undo what someone did to a child. But you can be the one who makes sure it never happens again. Silence protects the abuser. But action saves the innocent. Call to action, continued. If you're reading this and something feels off in your own home, don't wait. Don't give someone the benefit of the doubt at the cost of a child's safety. Record. Report. Respond. Be the adult who shows up when it counts. And if you're a stepdad like me, earn that title with action. Not just a wedding ring. They say blood is thicker than water. But I learned something else. Love is thicker than excuses. A few days after Brandon's arrest, I got a call from Child Protective Services. And it wrecked me. Due to the ongoing investigation and the emotional distress reported by the child, we will be initiating a temporary removal from the home for her safety. I froze. Wait, removal? What are you talking about? I'm her stepfather. I protected her. Yes, sir. But you're not her legal guardian. And just like that, my world cracked open again. They took Ellie. Packed her little pink suitcase with trembling hands. She clung to me like I was the only tree left in the middle of a storm. I don't want to go, Daddy, she whispered. That was the first time she ever called me that. Not Jake. Not Jacob. Daddy. And they were taking her away. I kissed her forehead. I told her I'd fight for her. That I'd bring her home. But as the car pulled out of the driveway and I stood there empty-armed, I had no idea how. My wife broke down that night. Curled up on the edge of the bed, arms wrapped around her own stomach like she was trying to hold herself together. I'm so sorry, she kept repeating. I should have never left her alone with him. I thought he was family. That's the problem, I said. We thought family meant safety. But sometimes, family is the danger. She looked up at me. You're going to leave me, aren't you? I stared at her. Long and hard. I don't know yet, I said honestly. But I know one thing for sure, I'm not leaving Ellie. The next morning, I sat in a lawyer's office. Paperwork stacked high. Retainers. Custody forms. Affidavits. She's not biologically yours, the lawyer said carefully. You'll need consent from the mother. Full cooperation. Otherwise, this could get dragged into court for months. I don't care, I said. I'll spend every dime I've got. He looked at me over his glasses. You love her like your own. She is my own. What followed was the ugliest, slowest, most painful stretch of my life. CPS interviews. Background checks. Court hearings. Character witnesses. They asked me questions no man should ever have to answer. Did you ever raise your voice at the child? Have you ever struck your wife? Were you aware of any abuse happening before this? Each question felt like a slap. Like they were putting me on trial. While Brandon sat behind bars, silent and smug. I turned to my wife after one hearing. You know they're going to ask you too. I'll say whatever they need to hear. No, I said quietly. You'll say what's true. That's the only way we fix this. She nodded. For the first time, not as my wife, but as Ellie's mother. Then came the final hearing. The day I would find out if I had the right to call Ellie my daughter, not just in my heart, but by law. The courtroom was full. Cold. Too quiet. My hands shook the whole time. The judge looked me in the eye. You are not this child's biological father. But you risked your freedom, your family ties, and your marriage to protect her. That tells me more than blood ever could. I held my breath. Pending final clearance, Jacob Harris is hereby granted joint legal custody and primary physical guardianship of the minor child, Ellie Carter. I broke. Right there in the courtroom. Tears down my face, shoulders shaking. Because I had lost so much, but I hadn't lost her. 2 days later, I brought Ellie home. She ran into my arms, suitcase dragging behind her like it never wanted to leave again. You promised, she said. And I kept it, I whispered. But the house wasn't the same. My wife and I lived like shadows passing each other. She went to therapy. I went to court-ordered parenting classes. Not because I did anything wrong, but because it helped with paperwork. Ellie watched us carefully. She was healing, but still alert. Still waiting for something to go wrong. So I made sure it didn't. Every night, I read to her. Sat by her bed until she fell asleep. Let her know that no matter what had happened, this was her home now. And no one was taking her away again. Love isn't DNA. Love is showing up. Love is filing paperwork, sitting through court, fighting systems, and doing it all for a child who trusted you, when they had no reason to. If you're a step-parent, guardian, or someone who's trying to step up for a child who needs you, don't let red tape scare you away. Fight. File. Speak up. Kids don't need perfect people. They need people who won't give up. Not when it's hard. Not when it's unfair. Not ever. Trauma doesn't knock before it enters. It barges in. Sits at the dinner table. Sleeps in the hallway. And it doesn't leave just because the abuser is gone. After Ellie came home, I expected things to get better. But the first night back, she didn't sleep. I found her curled up in the closet. Blanket around her like armor, clutching that same stuffed bear with the torn ear. Her eyes were wide open. Not crying. Not speaking. Just waiting. Like someone might still come in. I sat down beside her, no words, just presence. Slowly, I wrapped my arms around her and whispered. You're not alone. Not anymore. And not ever again. That's when she finally broke. Not in screams. Not in sobs. Just one sentence. Do bad people come back when the door's locked? I didn't answer right away. Because how do you explain to a child that sometimes monsters wear familiar faces? So I told her the truth. Bad people try. But good people stand at the door. She buried her face into my chest and didn't move for an hour. Mornings became unpredictable. Some days, she woke up smiling. We'd make pancakes shaped like dinosaurs and laugh about syrup mustaches. Other days, she wouldn't speak. Wouldn't eat. Would flinch when the mailman rang the bell. And every time she had to go to school, she gripped my hand like she was walking into war. I'll be right here when you're done, I promised. Promise, promise? Promise, promise. At school, the other kids didn't know what she'd been through. But they noticed the quiet. The way she sat alone. Kids notice everything. I got a call from her teacher a few weeks later. She's smart, Mr. Harris. Creative. But she doesn't trust anyone. She will, I said. She just needs time. But time was slower than I thought. At home, my wife and I were on different planets. She tried. Cooked dinner. Cleaned. Asked about Ellie's day. But Ellie barely looked at her. One night, she asked me, will she ever forgive me? I didn't sugarcoat it. Not today. Maybe not tomorrow. But if you show up every day, she might start to believe you again. But I didn't do it, she whispered. No. You just looked away. That hurt her. But she needed to hear it. Because sometimes guilt isn't about what you did. It's about what you allowed. One Sunday morning, I walked into the living room and found Ellie staring at the family photo wall. She pointed at the picture of all of us from last Christmas. Can we take a new one? I blinked. A new what? A new family photo, she said. With just you and me. I looked over at the photo. My wife's arm around me. Brandon off to the side, grinning like a fox. And Ellie, front and center, forced smile and all. Yeah, I said. We can do that. The new photo? Just the two of us in the backyard. Sunset behind us. Ellie sitting on my shoulders, arms wide like airplane wings. And this time, her smile was real. Later that week, she wrote something for a class project. Her teacher emailed it to me. It was a short essay, titled, "The Person I Feel Safest With." I used to think being safe meant locking the door. Now I know it means someone will fight for you even when it's hard. My stepdad is my real dad. Because he didn't just live in the house. He made it feel like home. I printed it out and taped it to my desk. It reminds me why I show up. Why I stayed. Why I fight. And my wife? She did start showing up. Therapy twice a week. Parenting support groups. Books about childhood trauma stacked on her nightstand. She asked Ellie, gently one day, "Do you want to talk to me yet?" Ellie looked up from her drawing. Thought about it. Not yet, she said. But maybe next Tuesday. It wasn't forgiveness. But it was a start. One evening, I tucked Ellie into bed, and she said something that knocked the wind out of me. "Hey, Daddy?" "Yeah, sweetheart? Would you still love me if I wasn't yours?" I leaned down, brushed her hair back, looked her right in the eyes. "You were mine the second I chose you. And I'd choose you again. Every single time." She smiled and closed her eyes. And that night she slept. No closet. No nightmares. Just peace. It had been nearly a year since everything happened. Brandon had been sentenced. My wife and I were still working through therapy, separately and together. Ellie was smiling more now. Laughing. Sleeping through the night. But something in her still held back, like there was one final piece that hadn't healed yet. And then came the letter. A soft white envelope. No return address. Postmarked from the county jail. It was addressed to Ellie. I opened it before she could see it. I had to. I read it alone in the kitchen, hands trembling. It was from him. Brandon. Claiming he was a changed man. Saying he'd never meant to hurt her. Asking if she could ever find it in her heart to forgive him. I nearly tore the paper in half. But then Ellie walked in. She saw the letter in my hand. "Is that for me?" I looked at her. She wasn't a trembling child anymore. She was stronger. Sharper. Still small, but no longer scared. So I told her the truth. Yes. It's from Brandon. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just said, "Can I write him back?" I stared at her. "Why would you want to do that?" She shrugged. "Not for him. For me." We sat down together that night, side by side at the kitchen table. She grabbed a blue pen, her favorite color, and a single sheet of notebook paper. She didn't ask me what to say. She just began writing. "Dear Brandon. You hurt me. You scared me. You made me feel like I was broken." Then she paused. Looked up at me. "Can I write what I want?" I nodded. All of it. She continued. But guess what? I'm not broken. I have a daddy now who protects me. I sleep with my light off again. I laugh loud at school. I don't have to lock the closet door. You don't get to scare me anymore. You don't get to take up space in my head. I don't forgive you because you want me to. I forgive you so I can let you go. Goodbye. She signed it. Folded it. Handed it to me. You don't have to send it, she said. I just needed to say it. That night, I knew she had finally taken back her voice. Not just survived, but reclaimed her story. A few weeks later, the judge finalized it. The papers I had filed months ago. Adoption. Ellie had asked me, quietly, one night. Can I be a Harris too? I smiled so wide it hurt. At the courthouse, she wore a little blue dress and held my hand tight. When the judge asked her, "Do you want this man to be your father, forever and legally?" She nodded. Loud and proud. Yes. He already is. We had a new photo taken that day. Me. Ellie. And my wife standing behind us, hands on both our shoulders. It wasn't perfect. But it was real. And that meant everything. Today, Ellie volunteers at her school's peer support group. She helps kids who are quiet. The ones who sit alone. She knows how to spot the fear. Because she's lived it. She told me one day, "I don't want to forget what happened. I just want it to matter." It does matter. Because it turned a scared little girl into a brave young warrior. And it turned a man like me, unsure, fumbling, afraid of overstepping, into a father. My wife and I still have work to do. Forgiveness is a journey. Trust has layers. But Ellie? She's home. Really home. I keep her first drawing taped to my office wall. A picture of the two of us holding hands, standing in front of our house. There's a big heart in the sky, and in crayon she wrote, "Not my stepdad. Just my dad. Forever." You don't have to share blood to be family. You just have to show up. You have to protect. You have to love without condition. And sometimes, being a real parent means being the one who stayed when everyone else walked away. To every man who's stepped into a child's life. Whether you're a stepfather, a foster parent, an adoptive dad, or just a steady hand when everything else fell apart. You matter more than you know. Show up. Stay consistent. Speak gently. Fight fiercely. Because one man's love can rewrite a child's entire life. If this story touched you, share it with someone. Someone who needs a reason to keep going. Or someone who needs the courage to finally speak up.